This is the Stop Time Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hopkins, and I'm here to engage you in thought-provoking, motivational conversations around practicing the art of living in the moment. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm excited to dig deep and offer insights into embracing who we are and where we are at. My next guest is a New York City-based writer, photographer, and entrepreneur. Her photographs have appeared in magazines worldwide, including Rolling Stone, The New York Times, Vogue, Glamour, New York Magazine, Elle, Vanity Fair, and on many covers, including GQ. She loves being around actors and directors and writers in movie sets and specializes in portraiture, shooting actors, entrepreneurs, business owners, writers, chefs, musicians, and celebrity portraits from magazines. Her client list is a who's who of the entertainment industry, all of whom are drawn to her unique energy and innate ability to see and capture the true essence of who they really are. I'm really thrilled to be sitting down today with photographer Leslie Hassler. Leslie, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It's really, really wonderful to have you. I've spent the day kind of looking through all your stuff because I like to do that, right? I mean, I do research, but I also like to immerse myself in whoever I'm speaking with. And I just want to take a moment and celebrate your work. I mean, it's really wonderful. It really is.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. What is it that you like most about what you do?
I think for me, it's creating a rapport with someone new. That's kind of the turn on part. It's not about creating some incredible new lighting setup that never has been what does it for me. It's the connection that's very tangible once it starts flying between us. It just happens, it clicks, and then that's when I get that elevated feeling of being high, you know?
Yeah.
And I think they do. So it's really fun.
It's like, it sounds like kind of a mutual flow state, right? You guys kind of hit it.
It's, yeah.
That's pretty cool. What happens when it doesn't? Does it ever not happen?
Yeah, I think it's happened maybe a couple of times. One was because I asked an actor to hold a vintage clock as a prop and even like wrap the cord around his neck and kind of be goofy with the cord. And he just didn't want to do it. And I just said, okay, yeah, never mind. Don't worry about it. We'll just take some without it. And we did. And then I remember I was sort of stressed out after that. And I left my own studio. I actually just like said, I have to go. And I left him there with, some PR people and my assistant. And I came back and he had left me a note saying, "Dear Leslie, I'm really sorry. I was in such a bad mood. It had nothing to do with our shoot. I love your work. XOXO." So it was just, he was having a bad day.
He was being human. Isn't it funny though how we shut down, right? And then we make all these stories about it must be me. Why did I ask him? What an idiot.
I know. I mean, I don't think it's very rare that people don't get into the flow state because, when I'm feeling my energy is elevated, it's going to elevate them naturally without really doing much. It's just me being interested in them that brings them out.
So totally. How do you prep for a session? Like in terms, it's interesting to me because much like getting ready to play the role, or in your case, really getting to create that energetic moment, right? Do you have kind of a ritual of what you need to do for yourself?
I think I do. It's not anything set in stone. It's just that I leave whatever is going on, maybe that might be negative. Like I told you, I think in something I wrote down that my mother passed away this year. I didn't bring any of that into the room, my grief or anything I was going through, because it has nothing to do with their shoot that they are expecting to be very positive. So in times like that, I just leave everything that I might be going through in my life and just walk in the room with a big smile on my face and say, "It's so great to see you and meet you." Because sometimes I haven't even met them in person.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a Zoom, pre-branding thing. So yeah, bring my good energy, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and this may be a difficult question, but how do you do that? Like, I understand what you're saying, and I understand that there's a value there maybe that you're honoring that is easy to step into, as opposed to, or is it a siloing? When you do that, when you remove yourself, I don't think it's toxic positivity. What is it? That how do you do that?
Oh, it's just compartmentalizing. And also, plus, I had already taken 3 months off work completely. So
Mm,
I didn't just jump right back into working. I just took as much time as I needed. And then I felt like, working actually makes me very happy. And I get a lot of joy from what I do. So I did a couple of shoots and I thought, I can do this. It's
yeah,
it's it's a good thing to work again. So yeah.
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really nice. Take us back to your origin story because I know that you've got a really interesting background that led you to where you are now. Would you share some of that with us?
I was working in New York as a model with Ford, and I did that for quite some time, maybe 15 years, 12 years. And the only time that I actually liked that job was when I was living in Paris or living in Tokyo and having an excuse to be able to live in a foreign city and learn the language. So I got so much out of it because of that. But I didn't actually like saying that I did that for a living. So I would just say, oh, I'm a student. Um, but I think I was on my last job. I was hoping it was my last job in New York. And I asked the photographer if he ever hired assistants. And he said, yeah, I do. And I said, so I'll come down to your studio. And, we did the next day. And it was a beautiful studio on Broome Street. I remember so clearly thinking that he was a food photographer because we were doing an ad for olive oil, like a hang tag. And I walked in and it was all celebrity portraiture, big blow-ups of cool portraits. And I said, oh my God, you shoot this type of stuff? And he said, yeah. So while I was there and I was looking at his work, he got a phone call and he went to the other end of the studio. And I could completely hear that he was talking about a shoot the following day that was going to be Harrison Ford. And so he came back over to where I was and I just looked at him and I said, I'll be assisting you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he goes, you will not be assisting me. And I said, no, I am going to be assisting you. And it just kind of went back and forth. So I was able to get him to train me right then, that day, on what kind of lighting and how I needed to set it up. So the next day we go to some amazing hotel. It was for a press junket. And we're in a hotel room and Harrison walks in immediately, just kind of like he and I start having a little bit of a rapport just because I say, what's with the mustache? Because he had a mustache. and I noticed that the photographer really wasn't getting anything much out of the shoot. Like it was just sort of boring, and the photographer was kind of sweating and nervous. So I just like jumped in and started kind of, just giving Harrison a little bit of a hard time, and he loved it. And so he walked over to me this close and he said, you don't like mustaches? And I was like, whoa. I said, no, actually, I'm not sure. I was all befuddled, but it showed me how to loosen someone up because the pictures became so much better because he was now having a great time and he was laughing. And, consecutively, he asked me if I would photograph him sometime. I said, yeah, of course. But I knew I was a complete neophyte. Okay. So gave him my number, figured nothing would ever come of it. And then like 5 months later, I'm in a taxi, phone rings, Leslie, hi, it's Harrison. And then there's like this long silence. And then he goes, Ford. And I go, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And anyway, it ended up being a big shoot that I faked my way through. Okay. And it ended on the cover of Japanese GQ. Like that's how I started my career. So
That's
it
a
was
great
synchronistic. Yeah.
Wow, you got a lot of chutzpah, a lot of balls there. Cojones.
I know. I was one of those. I mean, it's still my motto, which is jump and the net will appear. That's always been my kind of way of living. And I feel like if you don't ask, you wouldn't get, you get a yes or no. And it's like, I just used to ask for what I wanted a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have anything to lose if you don't have anything to lose.
Yeah, that's true.
Like literally, right? How old were you then?
I must have been about, I'd say close to 30, maybe 28.
So cool. And when you were modeling, did you begin that when you were like a teenager, or was that just how did you get into modeling?
Oh, my family was living in Montreal. Um, my mother wanted to us kids to learn a foreign language, my brother and I. So she forced me to go to an all French school in
Okay.
Montreal, Parisian French, luckily. And she moved back down south to be near her parents. My mother did. And my brother went with her. And I decided to pass through New York on my way there. And lo and behold, the woman I stayed with said, have you ever thought about modeling? And I said, no. She said, well, I'm friends with Eileen Ford's son, Billy. You might as well just go in and see what they say. So I felt like, remember that scene from Mary Tyler Moore when she steps out into the city and throws her hat in the air?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. Like the minute I got to New York, I came out of Grand Central and I had like white wide leg jeans and clogs and a blue blazer. And I just felt, this is my city,
That's
So it
awesome.
ended up that they took me, they accepted me, and I couldn't believe it. But, it just started me. I didn't ever end up going back to live with my family after that. I
Wow.
stayed in the city, got an apartment, and yeah,
Did the
a
thing, did the
complete change.
traveling. Yeah. That's amazing. It's interesting too, because you said earlier that it sounds like for you, you kind of knew instinctively that that wasn't what you wanted to do, but it was certainly providing you travel and opportunity and money, right? To sort of
Right.
the life experience, right? But had you not done
Yes,
that, then
yes, yes,
you wouldn't have asked the photographer, right? Like ding, ding, ding.
exactly. I mean, some people have asked me, how did you get to where you are? And I always look at this vision of, building a brick by brick by brick across a river. And then you look back and you go, oh my God, a bridge. Whoops. I didn't even realize. Because if you think about like modeling is so helpful as a photographer,
Yeah.
because I mean, I've had so many experiences where, say, the photographer would say something like, no, not like that. And then I would just shut down.
Yeah.
Or, so I learned how to express things in a very positive way.
Mm. So it sounds like you you didn't really have the technique yet or anything, right? You just had this sense of how to really create the moment. And then so was there ever a sort of imposter syndrome or any kind of like or did technique come into it? Did you go study more, or did you just kind of keep going with it?
Yeah. Basically, I had gone to NYU Film School. So I knew a little bit, about imagery, and
Mm.
images were all plastered all over my walls always. But I studied with a guy in New Mexico named David Michael Kennedy, who teaches at the Santa Fe workshop.
Mm.
He did a bunch of Rolling Stone covers back in the day, and he's a hippie. He shoots basically Indians now.
No.
He's like a New York Jew, but he's got a long braid and a cowboy hat, and he's allowed on these reservations.
Wow.
So I worked with him, which taught me a lot. And then I ended up dating someone who could just, I would say I was at Sundance Film Festival by myself.
Mm.
I'm shooting an actress. She's lying on her back like this in the snow, and I'm standing straddling over her, shooting down, and my camera breaks. So I called my future partner in New York, and he taught me how to take my camera apart and fix it. And, I fell in love with him. So he and I used to argue. I would say, it's all about rapport. And he'd say, no, it's all about the lighting. And so we had that debate for years, but during that, I learned all about the lighting. Yeah.
And do you still think it's all about rapport?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. Because without rapport, what do you have? A very flat image
With good lighting.
with good lighting. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, you
I'm
need
with you 100%.
Yeah.
I'm so with you. I mean, it's like the technician in anything, right? They can be the most brilliant technician and you can appreciate the technique, but there's not that sort of je ne sais quoi we're talking about, right? That you clearly capture, and that's kind of that's where you reside, right? That's so beautiful. So talk to me a little bit about legacy, because from my perspective, what you do has a lot to do with legacy. And I say that specifically because as I was researching you more today, I came across Luke Perry obituary photographed by you. And
Wow.
maybe you didn't
Wow.
even know that. And Harry Belafonte, the two, because I was just, researching you and saying, was the Hassler photographs, those two came up. And I thought, my goodness, like to think that, your photographs were used, for even just the family members, let alone all the, the fans and whatever to remember by, right? So the last image that they're going to see. What do you think about that?
I never thought about that before. And in fact, both of those portraits that I did, I wasn't even a photographer fully at the time. I was still an assistant because I ended up assisting that person for over a year. But oftentimes he would let me shoot after he was done, which is unbelievable. No one does that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't really, I mean, I guess I'm honored that they would choose a portrait that I did, but those to me just feel like before I even knew what I was doing. I just was winging it, fully winging it. I remember once I was assisting and it was Morgan Freeman, who I just love his face and voice and everything, but I was itching to take the pictures and to be the one shooting it. And so at one point, Morgan, he was wearing a black turtleneck. He just looked over at me and he goes, "Did you bring your camera?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, everybody out. Everybody out." And he had some pretty strong women around him, like his makeup artist and whatnot. Yeah. And so even the photographer left the room and closed the door. And he started doing like all this cool stuff with the black turtleneck. And I was shooting, Meanwhile, I get into the cab at the end of the shoot with the photographer. And I was like, "Hi." I said, "Oh my God, what a rush. That was incredible." And he said, "Did you remember to change your camera from outdoor to the indoor strobe settings?" And I go, "No, should I have done that?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's not going to be any exposure on the film except maybe that much." So it didn't work out.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. But how'd they turn out? I mean, were they bad?
No, there was no exposure. It was
None.
like, say the negative is that big, that much was
So like that.
exposed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was just I got exposed to very fun possibilities early on. I got to shoot Al Pacino. I wasn't even a photographer. And anyway, just like things like that. There's so many funny stories from those days, those early days of just falling flat on my face, just trying and then,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's beautiful. I love that. Is there a highlight of all of them? Could you pick one because one of my questions would have been like, what's one of your highlights of your career and what's one of your
Yes.
lowlights? Yeah.
Highlight would be Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I had watched Seinfeld probably 20 times, front to back.
Yeah.
And I'd watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, also the whole thing. So I was so happy to be photographing her. And she walked in to my loft in Chelsea with a very imposing, tall hairdresser. And I had gone out that morning to my deli because I was trying to come up with an idea. And I just sort of bought daisies out of the blue. I just thought, oh, we'll see what happens. But daisies, pinned in her hair or something. And so she came around to sort of like my kitchen table area where the daisies were laid out. And I said, "Oh, we could just pin the daisies in your hair and it would look really cool." And she looked over at her hairdresser and he went, "No." And she looked at me, she looked at him, and she looked at me, and then she went, "Let's do it." So we put them in her hair, and it's on the cover. It's such a beautiful picture. I love it. And then when she was leaving, I was leaning my arm against the elevator, and she's like, "Oh my God, this has been so much fun." And then she goes, "Oh I love your bracelet." And I said, "Oh, this? Wow, I bought this in Argentina, but you know what? I bought two. Let me give you one." So I go and I give her one, and she comes back. When I come back up to her, she goes, "Get out." And she shoves me like she did on Seinfeld. So that was a highlight because she even wanted like autographed pictures of her. And I wrote, it was an email, and I said, "You mean on the back, right?" She goes, "On the front. Hello." So cute.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah. Isn't it nice when you like really have admired somebody that they show up in the way that you really hope and better?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my God. That's super cool. And is there a low light? Would that be hard to find for you? A low light?
Yeah, but I mean, I think the Morgan Freeman story is definitely, whew, you know, he even gave me his number and said, if
Mm.
you ever need anything at all, call me. And that was a time when I didn't have the nerve to ask because I didn't want to, it was almost embarrassing. Like I actually didn't get anything.
Mm.
Can we reshoot that? So I sort of was kicking myself because he would have said yes. He was so kind. But I just didn't have the nerve to do certain things. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would have, if you could have done it differently, you would have just called them and owned up
Oh,
and
and I would
yeah.
have admitted what happened and
Yeah.
he would have probably started laughing and said, "Of course," you know?
I love that.
So,
Well, and with the legacy piece, have you ever thought about what you want your legacy to be?
I have not thought about that, no.
Mm.
My legacy? She was a good person?
Yeah.
Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, how do you want to be remembered? That's what legacy is, right? Really. I mean, it's
Mhm.
interesting because there's two parts too, and I'm actually curious to ask you about like, is mentorship something that you've felt you've had or that you would like to give? Has there been anyone that's been a key sort of mentor in your life?
I have had a lot of great, partnerships with other people, especially in my writing, like an editor, and things like that, but in photography, it's mainly that I've studied a lot of other photographers' work, that I admired. Um, and I feel like, when you kind of get it, it's not copying like the style of someone else. It's more just getting inspired by an idea or a location or well, I will say that I do something I think is different, which is I style my shoots. Um, I'm a stylist and I bring that to the table to the point where people say, I would have never thought of wearing this. Wow, I never would have even pictured wearing this, but I'm going to wear it from now on.
Love it.
Um, so that happens a lot. I think that's important, but I don't know. To your question, yeah, no, I don't really think there are any like specific mentors. And I also, as far as mentoring, I have done that quite a bit. I had interns work with me in my studio and they get to learn all the behind the scenes, shooting indoors and outdoors and all the different aspects of it. And then they get employed usually for a couple of years working for me. And it's super fun for them and they learn a lot. So that's enjoyable.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, because you kind of came up that way, right? In a way, just sort of, can I try? Let me try. Let me try. Yeah,
Yes.
which is nice. What is your definition of living in the moment?
Um, Saying yes a lot is, I think, important to me. I would say that's mostly how I live is that I take chances and, if something comes up, I try to say yes if I can. And I also stop and notice, wow, this is fun. Like I don't project into the future or into the past that much. That's mainly because I've really worked on that in myself. And, if you see me in my car, I'll be listening to The Power of Now by
Mm.
Eckhart Tolle or
Yeah.
something like that, because it always reminds me that the time is now. And even as a joke, people will say, "What time is it?" I'll go, "Now," because it just reminds people to, just realize it is about this moment. I mean, I do say no also, but that's just out of my own, you know, self-care. I like my my time, my quiet time too. My creative time is kind of like precious to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. It sounds like if I hear you correctly, that the best living in the moment really occurs in the land of yes, right? That's where it tends to
Right.
kind of where you can really savor it and be really in it and enjoy it. But it's also you
Yeah.
create it when you say yes, don't you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think also another thing about that is listening to your intuition. I think one of the questions you had asked were three adjectives, and I think one of them was intuitive,
Hmm.
which, in that yes or no choice, oftentimes I'll I'll get a feeling about it. And I try to listen to my intuition as often as possible. Sometimes I'll say to a friend, but I don't know what my intuition is saying because I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so sometimes I am good at it. Sometimes I'm not, but I try to feel it as much as I can.
Yeah. No, fair enough. What if anything scares you? What are you like? Is there anything how does fear show up for you?
Sure, sure. Getting my heart broken for
Mm,
sure. It's scary. You know, taking a chance on love and falling in love is exciting and yet also scary. I don't know what else scares me. Um, I mean, sometimes I might, hmm, I might wonder, if someone doesn't, well, I don't even, that's not even a fear. I don't know what's that. I think that's about the main fear that I have.
you're so cute.
Uh,
It's interesting that you stopped yourself. Like if we were coaching together, I'd be like, no, no, finish that.
oh yeah, okay. So I'll say what I was gonna say then is that sometimes I might have a sense that, oh, I wonder if maybe they don't like me, like this
Ah,
certain, say, person, and then I'll reach out and make the gesture like, hey, do you want to get together?
hmm.
And of course they want to get together and it's great. But I can sometimes, if someone is a little bit, distant or busy or whatever it is, I can sometimes get a feeling of I wonder what I did or said, or I don't know if they like me,
Yeah.
which it sounds so childish, but I think, like feels like a kid would say that, but I think we're always going to be like that,
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Yeah, we want connection, human, and it's interesting. It makes actually so much sense, especially with someone like you and how you've described yourself, which is that you know, you've had a lot of kind of just ease, and it's come naturally to you to connect with people. So when it doesn't, you sort
Yeah.
of think it must be me because
Yeah,
something's not
yeah,
working.
you
Something's
put
not
it
working.
together. Yeah, you put
Everybody
it together.
likes me, right?
No,
Yeah.
you're right. It's when it's off, it's kind of like, what?
Yeah.
What did I say? What did I do? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's just them. They're busy. They've got 3 kids or whatever it is, you know?
Inevitably. That's so true. I mean, it's amazing the stories we tell ourselves, right? When we don't know the answer, when it's not the way we thought it was going to be. Yep. What would you do if you couldn't do what you do? Now, that's a loaded question because you do a lot of things. So I don't know how you want to receive that question, but if you couldn't do any of the multitude of artistic things you do, I guess is what I'm asking. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you mean not just photography?
Whatever, however you want to answer it is fine.
Um, I if I had to work to make a living, it would
Hmm.
be different than if I didn't have to work. Because if I didn't have to work at all, I would spend so much time painting and gardening and growing things. And, you know, I love being a homebody so much now that I moved out of Manhattan and I live upstate, which was one of the best things I've ever done. The lifestyle is so different. I can do those sort of homey things that I couldn't do for so long.
Yeah.
So I like painting. I've always had a desire to be like a detective. Like, I
I
think that would
love
be
that.
super fun. I used to, as a kid, I had a club based on that book, Harriet the Spy.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
and yeah, we would just go around spying on people and writing notes, and saying, "Ooh, well, they're up to no good." That would be so intriguing.
Yeah. If you didn't have to work, I don't even know if you consider your work. I mean, I know you get paid to do what you do, but would you, if you were, if money were no object, would you do less of it? Would you do more of it? How would you approach, let's say the photography in this case, how would you approach that differently?
I mean, let's say, I don't know. I don't really like have to work. Financially, I feel pretty comfortable in that department. Um, for the first time I mean, as an artist, you're never really comfortable or safe, but I feel like I am now. Doesn't mean that I'm, not at work, because I am, because I love it.
Yeah.
But I yeah, I still would do it. I still love it because it's a turn on for
Mm.
them and me. And I feel like if I wasn't working, I'd probably Oh, I'll give you an example. I once dated a man in London, an actor, of course. And I was in London for quite some time. And when I got home to New York, I saw my apartment and my photographs all over in my office. And I was like, oh, this is who I am. This is me. Because having gone over there to his world, I kind of lost myself for a
Mm.
while. Like I lost myself in who I am. And it took, coming home and seeing that to kind of like realize, wow, I am, you know, I'm here. I don't know. I can't explain it, but
Yeah.
I really love what I do. It's just so, like say 2 days ago, I was on a corporate shoot. They were having so much fun because they don't get that often to have a photographer come in and tell them how to dress and how to pose and do all this stuff. So they were just ordering sushi and the whole thing was a blast.
Bringing people together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know that you're a mom, right? So how old is you have a son, yes? So how old is he now?
He's 21.
Okay, so now that he's 21, is there any difference for you? And I'm speaking mother to mother now, for you about like, is it easier? What's changed for you now that he's kind of
Yeah.
launched into
I
the adult
mean,
world? Yeah.
he's in his final year of college.
Okay.
So this is the first time I've had those feelings of truly he's on his own. I
Yeah.
mean, next summer, who knows, he may end up living with me for a year until he gets his
Yeah.
career going. But yeah, it's very different. I felt it so strongly this year. He's home right now, which is nice for a few
Mm.
days. But I mean, I'm all for, him doing exactly what he's doing. And I like it. It's just a part of, the journey of life and what mothers have to feel, which is kind of a letting go and also being so proud at the same time.
I hear you. Mine moved to New Zealand, so
That's so far away.
so far away. Yeah. That will do. That will be a sidebar with a bottle of wine, you and I.
Okay, for sure.
Some
Wow.
sushi. Hey, what would you say is your Achilles heel?
Um, oh,
If
so
that's
this would be like a weakness of
like a
mine.
Greek myth, correct. So it would be the
Okay.
one thing that is, despite all this incredible strength, that is actually, yeah, probably your weakness. Yeah.
I don't know if it's my slight doubt, when I can not feel my own intuition and I start to question
Mm.
things, which is very typical of my Libra. You know, both sides look good to me and I can't make a decision.
Yep.
That might be what it is. It's just I cannot stand it for myself when I can't make a decision. Am I going to Paris? Am I not going to Paris? I don't know. I can't. It could take me like 3 or 4 days, and I'm finally like, okay, decision made. So
Mm.
that drives me crazy about myself.
I love it. So you get paralysis by analysis.
Oh, that's good. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which happens for high resonating folks like you because you live in the land of possibility. You believe in possibility. And sometimes there are so many possibilities that excite you all. So it's not so much like a judgment thing that would be better than this. It's more like ooh, 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 right? and,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and so you get paralyzed because you're not really sure what to do because you kind of feel them all, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Let me ask you a few more because I know you've got family and then I'll let you go, but to be continued. What what do you not want people to know about you?
Um, wow. Nothing is coming to mind.
Okay.
I used to be triggered by that question when
Hmm.
I was young. I was very triggered by that question. But now I don't feel like I am. I was triggered back then because, you know, we were living in Montreal and my mom was a total hippie at that time. And my friends' moms were these very conservative, like beehive, tall, like gray hair. And my mother was like, hippie.
Love it.
And I was embarrassed. So I would just, looking back, my friend said, oh my God, your mom was the coolest. But of course, as
Totally.
a 14-year-old, you're like cringing
Horrified.
everything she's doing. Um,
Yeah.
I really was traumatized actually by it. I would get off the school bus and like walk past my house and then back track into my own house.
Wow.
Yeah, but later, like I totally got over that because my mom is amazing, was amazing, and she was just going through a phase, and it was a pretty cool phase.
Yeah,
So
no, totally. Can you finish this phrase? Most people think Leslie Hassler is, but the truth is.
oh wow. See, that was on the intake form and I couldn't answer it because I really ran through like the possibilities of answering that.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't present myself as aloof and then actually they find out I'm nice. You know what
Right.
I like?
Mhm.
I am nice up front. So then I thought, okay, what am I? I don't know.
So you don't feel like anyone ever gets any misconceptions about who you are or how you are?
Not that much. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
give off a different, I think I'm pretty genuine. You know, I think I'm pretty
Totally.
just straightforward and genuine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I love that. Yeah. All right, let's do this. We do a little rapid fire. Very simple. I say,
Okay.
what makes you? And I say a word, and then you say what comes to your mind.
Okay.
How's that sound? Sound good?
Sounds Mhm.
All right. What makes you hungry?
Paris.
Hmm. What makes you sad?
I guess recently my mom.
Yeah. What inspires you?
Everything.
What
My
frustrates
son
you?
also, my son inspires me.
What frustrates you? Yeah.
Um, well, I was frustrated the other day. Just not being able to do something or not understanding how to do something, like a certain light that I'm supposed to know how to set up and I don't. I get so frustrated. So yeah.
What makes you laugh?
People who make me laugh. I don't know. People with a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just love laughing, of course.
Yeah.
It's the best. I also like people, I think something that makes me laugh is when people make fun of me or, like give me a hard time. That I love that.
That's fun. Yeah. What makes you angry?
Angry. I guess I can get angry with myself when I'm late for something because that can happen. And it really angers me. So I'm working on that one.
Oh, that's okay.
I tend
Yeah.
to, not have that great of a sense of time
Mm,
sometimes.
yeah. Why do you think that makes you mad?
Because I grew up with that. My mother was always late and it drove me crazy. So I don't want to see that happen to me where I'm just, it makes me mad because it's disrespectful of the other people that are waiting on me or, I am really much better at it now, but it probably triggers something from my childhood and that's why it makes me angry.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And it sounds like too that there's a value in there that you want to honor. And when you're late, somehow it really triggers that you're not showing up the way you want to
Oh
show up.
yeah.
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 No, absolutely. That's valid. Finally, what makes you grateful?
Oh, just my life, my son, so much so. Where I live, my friends, my clients. Yeah, I mean, I can find just my cats. I have two cats that I love. Um, and yeah, I mean, I feel like I get a lot of gratitude, feelings throughout the day.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah, just when I come home, I saw a video of myself just walking up the stairs and because it was on like a camera in my house. And I saw myself come up the stairs and greet my cat Lennon, who's a girl. And just the little interaction that we had where I was like, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just I immediately felt like, oh, like that's such a nice moment.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
I think I definitely surround myself with things that make me feel grateful. I noticed that beauty is so important to me visually. So everything I see in my house is pleasing to my eye and dim lighting. And I don't know, I feel the energy and the vibe in my house is good. It's positive.
Yeah. No, that's important. I can agree with that. What are the top 3 things that have happened so far today?
Well, this morning I got a massage
Mm.
and it was called a myofascial massage. So it was really painful.
Yep.
But I need to do that from time to time because of my job, like always holding a heavy object here. So I get like the need for someone to pummel me. That was this morning. Then I had brunch with a friend. And then what else did I do? Oh, I worked on that project outside, stringing some lights on a tree.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's starting to get a little bit chilly up there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a fireplace?
No, I have a fire pit outside.
Oh, there you go. That works. I love that. And what's something that you're looking forward to both today and also in the future?
Today I'm looking forward to going out to dinner with my cousins who just arrived from Ireland.
Nice.
And then in the future, I'm going back to Europe on Monday to Tuscany this is really like the downside of my job. I'm going to photograph my friend's vineyard in Tuscany. I mean, it's really
That's
tough.
horrible.
It's horrible, I know. So I'll be there for like 4 or 5 days, and they're going to have a bunch of wine tastings so that I can take pictures of the wine tastings. And I mean, it just sounds like torture. And then from there, I'm going to fly to Paris, 4 days, also sheer torture, and then come home. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I can't thank you, really. I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. I've had such
Yeah,
fun
I feel
talking
like
with
we
you.
have a lot in common for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been speaking today with Leslie Hassler. I'm Lisa Hopkins. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. And remember to live in the moment. In music, stop time is that beautiful moment where the band is suspended in rhythmic unison, supporting the soloist to express their individuality. In the moment, I encourage you to take that time and create your own rhythm. Until next time, I'm Lisa Hopkins. Thanks for listening.